Welcome again to MR8 Essential Training, lesson number 6, billing issues. A couple MR8 concepts that you need to know. We have a concept called Prefill. It's a process by which you can quickly add multiple items or entries with a single click. There are two kinds of prefills. Prefill parties to add all the billing parties quickly, so all of the parties who sent back the waiver ordering a copy are billed automatically. As each attorney signs and selects what locations they like a copy of, they send back those waivers. And when you receive them, you record that fact in the case manager under the parties. And based on that information, the billing becomes simple by clicking Prefill Parties. The second part is Prefill Services. The service items are selected as a preset group called billing set, not one item at a time. We'll show you the concept where just like a McDonald's menu system where when you walk in and order by numbers, we also like to have a billing set, each billing set containing certain set of items, and we can speed up the billing process. These two things you will see as we start generating invoices. Let's go to MR8. We start the billing process from turn-in function. Let me go ahead and put in the order number 5063, enter. And there are 4 parts to this. Today we are going to bill part number 1, Memorial Hermann Hospital location, because we have received the records and production processed and they uploaded to the repository. I'm a billing person, going to generate some invoices. So I'm going to go right click, view. Quadrant number 1, this is where the production department has entered the number of units after they did a pagination, and they also uploaded the scanned image of those records. My job as a billing person is to finish quadrant number 2, step 2, 3, and 4 with those prefill concepts. So let's do that prefill parties first. So I click on the button. 4 parties are listed automatically. These are the people who sent in those waiver responses ordering a copy of records from Memorial Hermann Hospital. You might have 5 or 6 attorneys, but these are the people that you have entered waiver responses. Because MR8 requires a billing rate table in advance, MR8 will show you any party that is missing a billing rate table at the bottom grid, but we don't have anything. So with those 4 parties listed, all checked, I simply click Save and Close. And this will generate 4 invoices, each going to each attorney. And it'll also generate 4 orders in the quadrant number 3. Only thing left to do really is to use the second part of the prefill concept called Prefill Services to specify what items we are billing for each attorney. I always like to start with my ordering client, so Mr. Daniel Berg. When I click the scheduling or ordering attorney, you'll notice that there are a couple items already in there. The first one is the custodian fee. MR8 automatically detects all the checks that have been written already so far for this custodian because it will be paid by the ordering attorney. Not only the check amount is in there, it also has calculated a markup, because when I set up the custodian fee item in the service items master list, I also entered a percentage, 5% for example. So any check amount will be marked up by 5%. It's automatically calculated to $36.75. The color copies are coming from the tracking service items. So when the processor or case coordinator was calling or processing this particular work order, somebody incurred a billable services. They went to Kinko's and spent 89 cents for 23 pages making color copies. So that item also comes automatically into the billing screen. One's coming from writing checks. This one is coming from the billable services in the tracking steps. I need more items than that, so we're going to click the Prefill Services, and here comes the menus that you set up, and you can pick any one of those. So let's say this was original and one billing, and this was a subpoena work. And these are the typical items that we bill. I need all of it except the witness fee for this one. So you just simply uncheck that and save and close. and that will put all those items in automatically. I go over to the first copy client, Prefill Services. Now this time I will switch the menu to copy. I made a copy local client and a copy out-of-town client because you might bill slightly differently. So this is a local attorney, and we just basically bill 3 things for the local copy client. Save and close. Now I have 2 more attorneys left here. It could be 20 more attorneys. I don't want to do this 20 more times. So there is a faster way you can do it. Copy services. I can basically replicate what I just did for the first copy client to the rest of the copy attorneys. We go to James Baker and I say I like to copy service items. Click on that button. Copy to all the attorneys except ordering attorney. Save and close, and that will basically make all the rest of the copy attorneys exactly same. Now that's pretty much it. Prefill Parties creates the invoices. Prefill Services puts the service items in, and all the billing rate tables has been specified at the time of the entry. So the only thing left for me to do is calculate invoices, do all 4 invoices, and this will actually calculate individual invoices. And before you go to the billing screen and view those invoices, you can quickly check, make sure that all the items are correctly done. And then you can go billing. This will list those invoices. And before you print, fax, email, or archive, you can preview them. Now it looks like I don't have a lot of prices set up correctly. Let me go back. Well, maybe this rate table isn't correctly set up, so let's go in here. There is a standard Houston clients. Let's look up the billing rate. Actually I used the wrong table because it's supposed to be Houston rates. Houston clients, that's the old one that we're not using anymore. Let's switch the billing rate table and save that, and let's do the calculation one more time. And when I look at the Daniel Berg, now that's better. That's the price that I was looking for. So let's go to billing screen, preview the invoice. Now right now invoice is printing without detail, but if you want to see the detail before you print them, you can simply say turn the detail on, and this will show you every single item. Then let me scroll a little bit down here, and this is the remittance section. And I'm using one of the templates that gives me the credit card box with American Express in it. You can select a different type of templates based on your needs. And before you actually print or post, you can turn your detail off. So that's the toggle switch you can use. If the client always wants a detail on every single bill, then you will go into the firm and set a flag saying that this client always wants details. In the quadrant number 4, originally you will be adding all these items using the Prefill Services, using billing sets as a group. Sometimes you need to make minor adjustments, deleting certain items or adding other items that are not part of the billing group. So for example, normally we send out records by US mail, so we charge postage $7.50. But what if this was a courier delivery? Delete that out. I need to add an item called courier. It's right there. So I select the delivery and then courier and save and close. So you can remove items and you can add any items you want in the quadrant number 4, adjusting these items as a result of the billing sets. You can also override these rates. Now rates normally come from the billing rate tables. Those are usually fixed. But sometimes you'll also have an occasion to override rates just for this one invoice. So for example, we spent 89 cents for color copies, and we later found out we're not supposed to without client's permission. I'm going to go into this item, override. You can check the override box. Once you check the override checkbox, it'll open up your billing rate field. Now 89 cents is coming from our rate table, but we can only charge 50 cents for this insurance company. You can override the rate just for this one time. Save and close that. We also have invoice headers and invoice messages. Invoice messages are part of the invoice printing and they are automatically put in. So for example, if I go to this invoice, let's view this invoice here. In the invoice message box, there's a message, a paragraph that I have not typed. Well, that's your default invoice message. You can override that by typing over that text or adding something to it or selecting a different type of message. So this is the standard message that is coming in as a default, and you can set up as many different messages as you need. You can pick the different message for this one time. A lot of people ask, can I backdate the invoice? We were supposed to build this last week or as part of the July revenue. You might also want to make it forward. So before you post or finalize the invoice, you can always change the invoice date by overriding the system's default, which will be today's date. Anytime you make any kind of a change, whether you're overriding the rate, inserting, removing items, it changes the whole invoice amount. So make sure that you always calculate or recalculate before you look at the final bill. So let's go ahead and calculate the invoice one more time. We'll go to the billing screen, and this time, because of the courier charges, invoice amount changed. Let's preview the invoice again. When invoice comes up, it will have a watermark that says draft. This is to protect you from accidentally sending these things out. The draft will go away once you post or finalize the invoice. Now, once the invoice is posted, you cannot make any kind of changes. You can only void and rebill. Let me turn the detail on. I'm going to post. There, the draft disappeared. This invoice is now final. You can print or fax to the client or email to the client. No one can make any kind of changes or delete this invoice. Only way you can do this is void. There's one more thing you need to do. We also want you to archive this invoice as a PDF document to the repository automatically. You do that by saying, I'd like to send this invoice to the repository server, and then just like that, it's done. If you have a MR Web, now the client will be able to access this invoice through the MR Web in the activity section, or your collection person can easily retrieve this invoice as a PDF document, so it'll be easier for you to email to the client. So be sure to archive every single invoice as a PDF document. If the invoice itself is correct and you sent an invoice to the wrong party, there's a function called transfer invoice. If the only thing wrong is the bill to party, then you can go to the billing and use the transfer invoice function, bring up the invoice number, view, and change any part of the bill to a different individual or different company, transferring it. So that will eliminate the need to regenerate an invoice. Since posted invoices cannot be edited or altered manually, the accounting department, the person who has the right or authorization to void that particular invoice, will use the function receivables, transactions, and other transactions, and the person will actually void an invoice using this function. So 5112, it's not supposed to be $207.59 voided, along with all the other transactions, payments, the void, the credits, and all that. At the end of the day, they'll post all these transactions. So since we only have one, we'll just go ahead and post. Again, they are finalizing this voided transaction. We're done. Let's go look at our invoice 5112, and the balance is a 0. Let's go look at the detail. Balance is a 0, but the invoice is actually voided. And if I go into the payment transactions, you will see that invoice has been voided back on August 13th. Once the accounting department does the void correctly, I need to go ahead and rebuild this. Let's go back to the turn in here, and we're going to go back into this part 1. Out of the 4 invoices, 5112 is coded red. The red in invoice screen means that's been voided. So if you go scroll to the right, you will see that invoice is balanced to 0, and there is a void date of 8/13. There's a button up here called copy. Normally the button is not activated, but if you click on the voided invoice, the button will be activated, indicating that it's the function that I use for voided invoices to rebill. Click copy, and this will make a copy of the original bill. There's our new invoice number 5115, and this is our new order. And here, now I'm going to make changes. Client was really angry about color copies. Eliminate that item. We just calculate. We go to billing screen. This invoice, if we preview it, is now correct without the color copies.